What's going on, everyone? This is Vince with VShred.com, and today we're going to go over a reason some of you might want to consider cutting your lifts 10 to 15 minutes shorter than normal, but actually get better results and stay injury free.
I'ma keep on going up till the lights go down.
All right, so like I said, today I'm going to tell you about another form of recovery that you might be neglecting, or maybe you just never thought about doing it before, because if you've been part of the VShred fam, especially on YouTube here for a while, you probably already know that I use one of these guys pretty much daily as part of my physical therapy routine for the herniated disc I had in my back, and just for mobility in general, which I talk about a lot and I'm gonna be doing a series about. But what I'm talking about for this video is a little different. I'm talking about incorporating stretching and foam rolling in those 5 to 15 minutes immediately after every single lift. Because that 10 minutes right after your lift is extremely valuable time. That could not only help to keep you from getting injured to begin with, but like I mentioned, also possibly be the missing link in why you might not be seeing the best results. Now, obviously things like sleeping and eating right and training right, meaning giving specific muscles enough time to recover between workouts and knowing when to take rest days is huge. And if you don't have that part figured out, that is the first step. And if you want me to help you with that, I do have a free fitness quiz that tells you the best training and best diet for your specific goals. And if you want to check that out, just click the link in the description below. But let's say that you're already training and eating right, but you're still finding yourself stiff all the time and super sore. Maybe you're not seeing progress. I want you to try to focus on 10 minutes of stretching and releasing whatever muscle you just trained following every single lift. And you can do this after your full workout, or like I said, you can cut your workout short by like 10 minutes and replace those last few sets with the specific stretches that I'm gonna show you right now. And I'm gonna show you them for a leg day, because that's one of the best ones to do it for. All right, so for this demonstration, I'm going to be acting as if I hit legs today, because legs are obviously a huge one that gets super sore. There's a bunch of different muscle groups on the legs, the largest muscle group of the body. You can really do this for any muscle group. If you hit chest and triceps, you can really focus on stretching your chest, stretching your triceps. You can even foam roll. But what I'm actually gonna start with is foam rolling for my legs, and I'm just gonna tell you 2 quick tips about foam rolling before I get into all the exercises that or the stretches that I'm gonna show you for each area of the leg. But when it comes to foam rolling, I always do this before I do any kind of stretching. So I'll spend like a couple of minutes with foam rolling, and then I'll get into like 5 or 10 minutes of stretching after I do the foam rolling. But with foam rolling, one thing to be aware of is, I guess I'll give you 3 tips. The first tip is that when you do any kind of foam rolling, so like right now, this is foam rolling my hamstring, okay? And my legs are very sore right now. But one thing you wanna be aware of is that you're not flexing the muscle as you foam roll. I guess that's a little more difficult than actually doing this with your quads. When you foam roll your quads, if they're super sore, people have a tendency to kind of flex because it hurts so much. What you want to do instead is you actually want to relax into the muscle and just let this, almost like you have a dead leg and it's just rolling over the foam roller, and it hurts a lot more, but it's gonna be a lot better for helping you be less sore. Another thing is there's this thing called compression, which is where you basically find a super sore spot. So say I'm super sore like right here, okay? I'm gonna find that spot where I'm super sore, and then I'm just gonna sit into it. I'm just gonna sit into it for 10, 15 seconds, break all that up, and then roll into the next spot, find another place, sit into that, break all that up. And so that's one way to go about it. Then there's also this thing called shearing, which is where you find a sore spot like that. So say I'm sore up here now, I'm gonna find that, and then if I'm super sore right there, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna relax over it, and then I'm gonna go back and forth over it slowly. Just back and forth until I feel the muscle relax. So like, let's say you get to a spot where you literally can't relax the muscle because it hurts so much because you're that sore. I want you to roll back and forth over that until you're able to relax the muscle on top of the foam roller, and then move into the next spot. There's a bunch of different stretches that I'm getting into, and I'm gonna be going through hips, I'm gonna go through hamstrings, quads, glutes, and calves. And I'm gonna give you 3 different stretches for each one, but for time's sake, I don't wanna spend 40 minutes right here on this video. If you guys do want me to do a more in-depth stretching video, comment down below and let me know. But for the most part, I'm just gonna show you how these movements are performed, just give you a quick exercise demo and then move into the next exercise just so that I'm not wasting a bunch of your time here. But first off, we're gonna start with hips, and we're gonna start with a very simple one. It's a knee to chest stretch. So basically, you can do this single leg or double leg. You're gonna be laying flat, bringing your knee up, and you're just going to hug this into your chest, keeping your low back on the ground. Hug as much as you can. If you want to, you can take both of your legs and pull them in and just squeeze and try to feel that stretch in your hips, in your hamstrings, and in your low back. After that, we're gonna move into two really great hip stretches. One is the 90-90 stretch, and you can also add a hip thrust into this. So basically, you're gonna start with your hands back. Your feet are gonna be pretty much pointed out at a 45-degree angle, and then from there, you're gonna drop both your knees down to one side, and you're gonna go all the way until your knees touch the ground, bring them back up, drop them to the other side. So that's the beginner version of this. The more advanced version of this is bringing your hands forward, and then as you get there, you're going to hip thrust up, sit back down, roll back to the other side, hip thrust up, sit back down. So that's the hip thrust version of that. Great exercise for the hips. After that, we're gonna get into a frog pose, another fantastic one. If you're gonna do just one of any of these, I'd say it's probably this one. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna get out, your knees are gonna be spread out, and you're gonna start forward because you can spread your knees a lot farther that way, and your feet are directly in line with your knees. You're not bringing your feet in here, they're not way out here. They're in line with your knees. From there, you're gonna take your hips, keeping your back straight, and you're gonna drive them back as far as you can, really focusing on getting that stretch in the hips, come back forward, and try to sit into it a little deeper, and just keep rocking back and forth until you can get your hips to where you're almost on the ground. It's gonna take a lot of hip mobility to get to that point, but when you do get to that point, bring your knees out a little wider, and just continue to dig deeper and deeper into that hip stretch, and that's a great one to do. Now, moving into hamstrings, a couple hamstring stretches for you. First one is just gonna be a seated forward bend, I guess you could call it, which is the most common one that you see people do when it comes to hamstrings, which is where you're just literally sitting on the ground, and then you're going to lean forward, and you're going to reach as far as you can. So if you can't reach your feet, that's fine. I want you to try to reach your ankles, or just try to reach as far as you can, feeling that stretch in your hamstrings, and then eventually work your way to where you can grab your feet. After that, we're gonna get into a hurdler stretch, which is very similar to this, except you're bringing one foot in like this. I feel like this is a stretch that we all did if we played sports growing up or in school. But basically, this is just this is giving a nice little stretch in your hips and your glutes over here, but also stretching your hamstring over here. So really, and what you also can do is reach over like that to get this nice stretch. And another thing is you don't want to point your toe. You want to bring your toe back as far as possible. That way you can get an even better stretch. And then the third exercise for hamstrings is going to be a standing single leg ham stretch. So for this, what you're gonna do, you can have your foot elevated for this. You can get something that's like 5 inches off the ground and put your heel on it. But basically, I'm just gonna be standing like this, and then I'm going to lean forward, putting all of my emphasis, I'll do it with this leg actually, putting all my emphasis on that leg and trying to come down and touch my toe. So keeping my toe pointed up, keeping that leg straight, feeling the stretch back here, reaching as far as I can, holding that 20, 30 seconds, and then we're gonna move into quads. Told you I was gonna move fast. So quads, we're gonna start with a lying side quad stretch. So starting on the side, just like this, lying down, I'm going to straighten my legs, take my top leg, bend it back, and then I'm going to bring my knee back down to my other knee. So you don't want it way out here. You want it down towards your other knee, and then you're just going to bring your foot back as far as you can. If just bringing it up gives you enough of a stretch, great. If not, you can actually bring your knee back a little bit, and it's gonna give you a little hip flexor and quad stretch there. And just hold that 20, 30 seconds. And then we're gonna move into a kneeling quad stretch, which is going to be probably the best quad stretch of these. But you're gonna get into a nice little kneeling position right here. Then you're gonna bend over, and then also bring your back foot up off the ground, grab your ankle there, and if you can do that without bending over, more power to you. But then you're gonna sit back up, or straighten yourself back up, and you're just going to focus on pulling your foot back into your butt, and really focus on getting that squeeze, or that stretch of your quad. And one thing that you can do here to make this even more intense is you can take your hips, and rather than having your butt stuck out in an anterior tilt, you go with a posterior tilt and squeeze your butt through. And by squeezing your butt through, you're gonna feel a nice stretch up and down your quad right there. But then last for quads is just a very common standing quad stretch, which is where you're just standing here, really focusing on stretching that muscle right there, holding that for 20, 30 seconds. Grab something to hold on to if you can't balance. But that's it for quads. Now glutes, we're gonna go with a lying down knee to opposite shoulder stretch. So here, you're gonna lay down flat, take this knee, and then you're just going to bring it across your body. So one thing you wanna be careful of is you don't want to roll your entire body. The whole point of this is to get that stretch, or I'll do it with the other leg. You don't wanna roll your entire body over. Whole point is to get that stretch in that muscle. So you wanna keep your body flat, but then pull that leg over as much as possible while keeping your body flat, and just try to feel that stretch in your glutes. Hold that for 20, 30 seconds. Then we're going to do a seated knee hug, which is gonna be down here on the ground again. And then this is probably the most common glute stretch that I see done, but basically you're just going to take your leg, bend it over, and then you're gonna take your arms, wrap them around your knee, and you're just going to hug your knee into your body. I'll do it the other side again. I keep forgetting to do that. Bring it over, hug, bring it in, and you'll feel a nice stretch right there. Whew, that's a good stretch. And then you're going to get into the seated glute stretch on a bench. So with this, it's slightly different. So you're gonna be taking your leg and you're going to put your right ankle on your left knee, and then rather than pulling your knee up towards you, you're actually going to sit down, or you're going to lean forward into your knee. So difference between that is you're hugging this one in, and here you're getting that hip hinge and you're really stretching down into the stretch. So hold that, do it with both legs, stretch into it, feel that stretch. And then we're gonna finish it off with calves. First off is a downward dog, getting into a push-up position, bringing your feet in a little bit, butt up in the air, and just really focus on sitting back on your heels. You don't just want to kind of sit here and go into a downward dog and stick your butt up in the air. You want to sit back on your heels, feel that stretch. Another thing you can do is just sit on one or the other and feel that stretch even more. Then another exercise is a lunging calf stretch. So you can do this up against the wall. You see people doing it like that all the time. If you don't have a wall, you can just do it pressing from your knee, just trying to drive that heel as far back as possible, feeling that stretch along the back side of your leg. Stretch, switch legs, stretch, driving that heel back, and then finish it off with a standing bent over calf stretch. So similar to that hamstring stretch that we did, or one heel on the ground in front of you, toe pointed up, you're going to bend down, you're gonna grab your toe, and then you're going to pull your toe in towards you, and that's going to give you an amazing stretch along the backside. So hold that 20, 30 seconds. And again, you don't have to do all of these. And I said I was gonna go through these quick. So I spent as little amount of time on each of these exercises as possible. Again, if you want me to go more in depth, comment down below, let me know. But adding this stretch is gonna be super beneficial. And whether you're hitting legs or back or chest or shoulders or anything, stretching after the workout is going to be hugely beneficial. All right, so that's a great example of some stretches to do after leg day. And one thing to be sure of is that you do it right at the end of leg day. Don't wait until you get home, because the muscle you worked isn't gonna be as warm, and the odds of you doing it when you're at home are very slim. Plus, that's the whole reason I've been talking about cutting your workouts 10 minutes short, because this will help you feel better and get stronger. And if you give it enough time and consistency, you'll start looking better because your muscles are actually fully recovering after your lifts. But that's all for today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you're clicking that thumbs up button below right now. And if there are any stretching videos you want me to make specifically for muscle groups, or just any video recommendations in general, comment them down below. Also, make sure that you're subscribing to our channel here on YouTube, because if you're not subscribed, you're missing out on a ton of free fitness advice. But thanks for watching. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one.